Have you ever felt that the life you want is so close, yet always seems to slip through your fingers? What if I told you that manifesting this reality does not require mystical rituals, lucky charms, or secret techniques? What if all you need is something so simple, so powerful, that it will feel like magic, but in truth, it is nothing more than consciousness applied with wisdom? In today's video, you will discover why everything changes when you learn to think four-dimensionally, as Neville Goddard taught. Together, we will explore the exact point where the impossible becomes inevitable, where your reality begins to respond to your new vibration. You don't need to do more. You only need to be. And before we continue, leave this phrase in the comments. I am the cause of my reality, and I choose to manifest my highest good. This affirmation opens invisible doors, both within you and around you. Shall we go on? Few people have dared to explore the limits of the human mind as deeply as Jacobo Grinberg, the Mexican neuroscientist who mysteriously disappeared after publishing his theories on the quantum nature of reality. For Grinberg, reality is not something external and fixed. It is a reflection shaped by the structure of individual consciousness. This view resonates with classical metaphysics of the 20th century, especially with the teachings of Neville Goddard, the mystic who coined the term law of assumption and revealed a revolutionary principle. Everything you assume to be true in the inner world manifests in the outer one. By uniting the science of consciousness with spiritual wisdom, these masters reveal to us that manifestation is not magic. It is vibrational coherence. The mind, when disciplined and aligned with higher principles, acts as the mold of reality. Thinking four-dimensionally, as Goddard said, means living from the end, assuming that what you want is already real, not in the future, but now. This approach breaks with the linear view of time and invites us into a new state of being, where prayer is no longer a plea, but a certainty. And it is from this certainty that the impossible begins to manifest. We live in a world where most people believe that everything that exists is only what can be seen, touched, or measured. What we call reality is taken as something fixed, unquestionable, determined by external circumstances like luck, genetics, economy, or chance. But what Jacobo Grinberg teaches, and what Neville Goddard masterfully reaffirms, is that this three-dimensional reality, the physical plane, is only a reflection, an inverted mirror of consciousness. The 3D world is the realm of effects. Everything you see in your life, relationships, finances, health, environment, is the result of a deeper cause. Your inner state, what you believe to be true about yourself and about the world. When you try to change reality by acting only on the external, it is like trying to alter a mirror's reflection without changing the one being reflected. It is useless. Real change begins within. This is the first great mistake most people make. They want to transform the image without changing the mold. They want a new relationship, yet continue believing they are unworthy of love. They want prosperity, but still see themselves as limited, unlucky, or incapable. They ask for health, but carry an identity of fragility. The 3D only responds to the prevailing vibration of your self-concept. Here lies the power of spiritual discernment, understanding that everything you observe out there is merely a reflection of what you are in here. This perception completely changes how you act in the world. You cease to be a victim of circumstances and become the conscious creator of your experience. The 3D world functions like a mirror that shows you the opposite of what you must correct internally. When scarcity appears, it is a call to realign with abundance. When loneliness arises, it is an invitation to cultivate self-love and inner connection. But if you react to the reflection, if you fight against it or deny what you see, you end up reinforcing that state even more. Grinberg explained that the mind projects and the neuronal field encodes this projection into a perceptual structure. In other words, You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. Neville Goddard adds, "There is no one to change but self." Therefore, true manifestation does not begin with a desire. It begins with a decision, the decision to assume a new inner identity. When you understand that the 3D is just a mirror, you stop fighting with the world and begin to shape your consciousness with coherence. And this is where we come to the key that makes everything possible: thinking four-dimensionally. Thinking four-dimensionally means stepping out of the limited logic of linear time, where everything happens in sequence, past, present, and future, and entering a state of consciousness where everything is already now. This idea may seem complex at first, but it is the very foundation of conscious manifestation. Neville Goddard called it living in the end. Jacobo Grinberg described it as accessing the field of information where all possibilities already exist. Both spoke of the same thing, living as if your desire were already fulfilled. In the spiritual view, past, present, and future are not separate. They coexist in a single point, the eternal now. When you think four-dimensionally, you do not act based on what your physical eyes see, but on what you feel as truth within. You break the mental pattern of waiting. When I have this, then I'll be happy, and instead assume the emotional state of what you wish to live, as if it were happening already. This is the difference between living with the carnal eye and the spiritual eye. The carnal eye sees only what is before the senses. The spiritual eye sees what has not yet manifested, but is already real in the four-dimensional plane. This eye is what Paul called the mind of Christ, the ability to discern eternal truth beyond temporary appearances. Think about it. When you recall a painful memory, your body reacts as if it were happening now. Emotions arise, your frequency shifts, and your nervous system goes on alert. Why? Because for the mind, imagination and reality carry the same vibrational weight. And if this is true for traumas, it is also true for dreams. When you visualize, feel, and emotionally assume that something is already real, the mind accepts it as fact and begins reorganizing reality to reflect this new structure. Four-dimensional thinking is the ability to remain firmly anchored in the frequency of the desire fulfilled, regardless of external circumstances. It is not denying the 3D, but refusing to identify with it. You look at an empty bank account and instead of feeling lack, you declare inwardly, "I am prosperity." You see yourself alone, yet cultivate the feeling of already being united with love. This vibrational coherence is what moves mountains. That is why thinking four-dimensionally is not a technique, it is a way of life. It is the habit of living from the end, acting as if it already is, feeling as if it already has, being as if it were already fulfilled. From that point, your reality inevitably begins to change. And the more natural this inner state becomes, the faster manifestation happens. Time is not your enemy, doubt is. And when you stop waiting and start being, the universe aligns with your certainty. No technique, no prayer, no decree truly works if the inner structure that supports them is misaligned. And that structure has a name: self-concept. It is the image you carry of yourself, often unconsciously, and it shapes every aspect of your reality. It may sound simple, but this is the most overlooked key of conscious manifestation. If you believe you are someone unworthy of love, even if you repeat 1,000 affirmations about healthy relationships, your vibration will still scream, "I am not worthy." If you see yourself as unlucky, limited, a victim of life, your reality will be the exact echo of that perception. The universe does not respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. Self-concept acts like a vibrational filter. Anything not aligned with this identity is ignored or sabotaged. You may attract an incredible opportunity, but if your self-concept is not compatible, you will not see it or will unconsciously sabotage it. This explains why so many people repeat cycles, even after taking courses, rituals, or prayers. They want a new life with an old identity. That is why Neville Goddard said, "Change your concept of self, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." It is not merely about wanting something. It is about assuming the identity that naturally attracts it. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are in vibrational coherence with. Desire is only a reflection of being. And here lies the detail that changes everything. You can choose your self-concept. You don't have to keep living based on the stories told to you, the traumas you experienced, or the mistakes you made. At every new moment, you can decide to assume a new inner identity. You can say, "From today on, I am the version of myself who lives in fullness, who loves and is loved, who prospers with ease." And each time you hold this choice, even in the face of the opposite, you begin to reprogram your reality. Grinberg spoke of the perceptual structure as the mold that creates the illusion of objective reality. This structure is deeply linked to your self-concept. By changing that structure, the world begins to reorganize, because what we call reality is only a projection of the mind upon the quantum field of existence. Therefore, the most important question is not, how do I manifest this, but rather, who must I become to live this naturally? Self-concept is the soil where you plant all your desires. If the soil is contaminated with beliefs of lack, unworthiness, or fear, nothing grows. But if you cultivate fertile soil, nourished with self-love, confidence, and spiritual truth, manifestation becomes inevitable. Everything begins with the decision to change who you believe yourself to be. Most people believe prayer is a one-time act. You kneel, close your eyes, talk to God, and ask for something. But the masters of metaphysics, Neville Goddard, Florence Scovel Shinn, Emmett Fox, and Connie Mendez, taught something much deeper. True prayer is not a moment. It is a constant state of consciousness. When the Bible says pray without ceasing, it does not mean repeating words all day long, but living in vibrational coherence with the highest good, with what you desire to manifest. Scientific prayer is silent, continuous, and vibrational. It is an inner state of certainty, trust, and surrender, sustained in every thought, every emotion, every choice. It is the highest form of communication with God, not as someone distant, but as the very divine presence within you. When you pray without ceasing, you are sustaining a vibration that naturally attracts everything resonating with it. This is far more than mentalism, it is spiritual discipline. Because to pray without ceasing requires emotional coherence in the face of circumstances. It means keeping peace even when the senses say otherwise. It means holding faith in the face of delays, doubts, and apparent lack. And this coherence is not an external demand. It is the channel through which creative power flows. Jacobo Grinberg spoke of the moment between wakefulness and sleep as a portal to reprogram the mind and alter the perceptual field. Neville Goddard called this moment SATS, state akin to sleep. But beyond this privileged state, they both agreed on something even more impactful. Reality responds to your predominant vibration, not to a passing desire. If you want to manifest love, but spend the day feeling rejected, your prayer is being made in rejection. If you want prosperity, but sustain worry, anxiety, and lack throughout the day, your real prayer is being made in those emotions. This is why so many speak words of faith, yet live in frequencies of fear, and life responds to vibration, not to speech. Scientific prayer requires that you be intentional with your thoughts. It is not about pretending everything is fine, but about deliberately choosing which reality you wish to inhabit vibrationally. When you affirm, "I am whole, I am loved, I am abundant," and feel it as truth, even without physical evidence, you are praying with power. To pray without ceasing is, In practice, to live as if God has already answered your request. And He has. The answer lies in the moment you assume the corresponding state. From that point on, everything unfolds. You are not waiting for God to act. He is waiting for you to align your vibration with what has already been given. There is a moment each day when the portals between the conscious and subconscious open. A silent, almost imperceptible instant when the body relaxes, thoughts slow down, and the mind enters a highly receptive state. This is when SATS, state akin to sleep, a term coined by Neville Goddard, happens. The ideal state to install a new reality within you. In this state, the brain slows down, moving from the beta waves of wakefulness into the theta waves, the same waves that dominate a child's mind in their early years. And what does this mean? That whatever is felt, visualized, and affirmed at this frequency will be accepted by the subconscious as absolute truth. This is when manifestation begins to become inevitable. But the secret of SATS is not merely to relax the body. It is to consciously live your desire as already fulfilled. It is not enough to imagine. You must feel yourself there, see with your own eyes, hear the sounds, breathe the air of that new reality, all in first person. You do not watch a scene, you take part in it. For example, if you wish to manifest prosperity, don't visualize numbers in a bank account coldly. Feel the emotion of seeing that statement. Feel the confidence of knowing everything is flowing. See your hands touching the cards, paying with ease and gratitude. If the desire is love, feel the touch, the look, the affection already present. The more real, the more powerful the impression on the subconscious. Goddard taught that after experiencing this in SATS, you must fall asleep in that state of fulfillment. This is the detail that separates those who get results from those who merely visualize without impact. When you sleep immersed in the feeling that you already are, the subconscious registers that reality as yours and begins to attract events, people, paths, and synchronicities to manifest it. This process was also validated by Jacobo Grinberg, who identified this interval between active consciousness and sleep as a zone of high neurological plasticity. It is the moment when the perceptual structure can be redesigned. In other words, this is when you break with the old narrative and install a new vibrational identity. But pay attention, SATS is not a technique you do once and forget. It is a daily training, a spiritual practice requiring intention, surrender, and repetition. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes to access this dimension where everything already is. What seems distant today, in the right state of consciousness, becomes present. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what vibrates as truth. SATS is the shortcut that places you in that state, and once there, you simply sleep and allow the universe to do its part. There is no true manifestation without spiritual discernment. And discernment, contrary to what many think, is not about judging right or wrong in the external world. It is about recognizing what is true amidst the illusions of 3D. Manifesting with consciousness is not playing with spirituality, but adopting a new posture of vibrational responsibility before life. Spiritual immaturity is one of the great traps of the modern seeker. Many accumulate books, techniques, retreats, crystals, star charts, affirmations, and still remain stuck in the same emotional patterns: fear, anxiety, resentment, comparison, scarcity. Why? Because they have not developed what truly transforms: spiritual maturity. This maturity begins when you stop reacting to 3D based on what the eyes see and start responding based on what the spirit knows. It is when you refuse to validate as truth any scenario that contradicts your highest good. You may look at lack, at problems, at pain, and still affirm inwardly, this has no substance. The only substance is faith. Jacobo Grinberg called this recognition of the unified field. Neville Goddard called it the mind of Christ. In other words, It is the consciousness that discerns between temporary illusion and eternal truth. And this consciousness can only be developed through practice, inner silence, and commitment to the real, not to the apparent. You know you are maturing spiritually when situations that once threw you off balance are now embraced with serenity, when criticism does not shake you, when delays do not create despair, when you look at a negative circumstance and respond with faith, trust, and silence, when you stop seeking quick miracles and begin living as if everything were already well, because within you, it already is. This is the great difference between a practitioner and a true master of metaphysics. The master does not react to the old paradigm. He observes, recognizes, and transcends. He knows that every external chaos is an echo of internal incoherence. And if something must change, it is first within him. Conscious manifestation is a path for spiritual adults, not in terms of age, but of posture. You must be willing to let go of old identities, resentments, excuses, victimhood. It is a call to grow inwardly, to walk with wisdom. As the book of Proverbs says, "But he who walks in wisdom shall be delivered." And what is wisdom? It is remembering, even in the storm, that there is only one power, God, and that if God is for you, nothing can be against you. Everything else is just scenery. Spiritual discernment is the lighthouse that guides you through appearances, and maturity is the soil where manifestation takes root. Now that you know the path, the question is, are you ready to live what is already yours? Now that you have understood the truth behind manifestation, know this. You don't need to wait for anything or anyone to start living your new reality. Everything you need is already within you. The four-dimensional mind, the aligned self-concept, the continuous prayer, and the practice of sats are tools that, when applied with coherence, will inevitably transform your life. But remember, this is a path of practice, not perfection. It is not about feeling everything right all the time, but about choosing every day to vibrate as someone who already lives what they desire. That is how you manifest, by being before having. Start today. Set aside a few minutes before sleeping to visualize, feel, and assume the state of your fulfilled desire. Live from the end. And repeat the affirmation whenever you need to remember your power. I am the cause of my reality, and I choose to manifest my highest good. If this content resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who also needs to awaken to their true creative nature. You are not alone. Many of us are awakening together, and your new world begins now.